Well, you're probably asking yourself why I'm showing you a photograph of a car and not making electronic kits from Banggood. So first of all, my apologies for those of you who do enjoy watching the kit builds. I really haven't had a chance recently, and I do need to order some more kits from Banggood. I'm trying to find things that are just a bit more interesting than some of the things that I built in the past, just to get a bit more diversity and perhaps something that is going to be a little bit more challenging. Probably not is the answer to that, but at any rate, I digress. The reason I'm making this video is really to say thank you to a couple of other YouTubers, Gary Reid of Unfrequented World, and also very much to Andy of Unplugged EV Australia, who have done a lot of work reviewing reviewing the PHEV, but in particular, but certainly with Andy on Unplugged EV, and I'll put links to their channels in the description, has done a lot of work with respect to the issues that have been arising with respect to the battery degradation on the Mitsubishi Outlander. Now, this is a photograph of my Outlander. It's a 2018 model, although it was actually registered in October 2017 directly to Mitsubishi themselves, because they used it as a display car at events such as sporting events and perhaps stuff that they've sponsored to show the general public the Outlander PHEV. And when they finished with it, they sent it out to a Mitsubishi main dealer to be sold, and that's when I bought it. So it was registered in October 2017, but I didn't buy it until the end of November 2018. But it only had 608 miles on the clock. So it was a very very low mileage car, because it had spent its entire life basically being used up to that point as a display car. So I guess it was just driven a few miles to some of these destinations, or perhaps on the back of a lorry or something, I don't know. Yeah, so it only had a very low mileage. Now, since then, I've done 2,000, well, just over 2,000 miles. It's got about 2,600 and something miles on the clock. So I've only put 2,000 on it in the last few months, which is particularly high mileage for me. I had certain things going on over Christmas and the New Year that required me to do a lot of driving. But the battery in my car, I don't know. Let's put it this way. I'm using the PHEV Watchdog app, which is an absolutely superb application, which gives you just an absolute ton of information on your car, and it connects via Bluetooth using an OBD2 adapter on the OBD2 port, and the amount of information that you can get from this app, most of which I don't understand, or a lot of it I don't understand, is absolutely incredible. And I'm just trying to remember the name of Daniel Santos is the guy who created this app. If you go onto phevwatchdog.net, you can find out all sorts of information about the app. It's very well worth donating to Daniel, just to give him the incentive he needs and the motivation to keep this app going. You can see you can do a PayPal contribution to him. Doesn't have to be a fortune, and that way you can register the app, you can upload the data from the Watchdog app up to his servers and get all sorts of data. And the main thing is that Andy has had a huge amount of degradation, and which I think is a 2014 PHEV, went down to about 70%. And if it wasn't for this application, he'd never have known what was going on. He really wouldn't have known what was going on and had any evidence of the degradation, because he was armed with all the information that this app provided, coupled with the fact that Andy put a lot of time and personal effort into researching the car and has uploaded a bucket load of videos about it, and collected all that data. He is now in conversation with some other guys around the world who've had similar problems and collecting similar data. They've all collected their data, pass it on to Mitsubishi for them to look at. And from what I understand, kudos to Mitsubishi. They are listening to them, and they're, using the data and understanding, hopefully trying to understand what's going on. But the main thing, it appears to be, is that with Andy's car in particular, the degradation that he has experienced in the battery went down to 70%, which it shouldn't be anywhere near that for the age of the car. I think, if it was 10 years old, possibly, but his car is nothing like 10 years old. Mine is almost brand new if you take into account that it hasn't been used for over a year. It's the first year of its life, and I've got a 95% state of health. You can just see there it's cut off there from the top, but mine's 95%. Now, it's been 95 for quite a while. When I first got the car, it was about 96, 97%. So I've gone down possibly 1.5%, but it does seem to have stabilised at 95 over the last, I don't know, week, 2 weeks. It's been there. It went down 0.3% in one night. So, these things do find, rather like water, it finds its own level eventually. Whether it's actually got there or not, I don't know. So I'm going to be keeping a great close eye on my car and using this application, keep an eye on the battery condition. That aside, this car is absolutely superb. It really is fantastic if you don't do a huge number of miles every day. So if you have a long motorway commute every day, or your job is to drive a lot, then this car is probably not going to be for you. But I'm very fortunate that, one, I can charge at home, which means I charge overnight, and in the morning I've got a full battery, and I only work about 5 miles away. So I can actually not bother charging the car for at least 2 days, if not longer, and not use a drop of petrol, not a drop. I have, in the last 4-5 weeks, I spent about £45 UK sterling on fuel, which is basically a full tank. It's a very small tank in the PHEV. It's about 45 litres, I think. And after, as I say, 4 or 5 weeks, I still had half a tank of fuel left. At the weekends, I do a lot more miles, but I still had half a tank of fuel left. That's how efficient it can be. Now, I have to be honest with you. If I was to take into account the cost of this car and work out how much petrol, or in my case, it would have been diesel in my old car, I could have bought, it's questionable whether it was actually a great purchase. But if you take aside the economy that an EV, and in this case a plug-in hybrid, can give you, this is a superb car in terms of its size. It's nicely built, it's comfortable. The actual interior quality isn't great, to be honest. For the price of the car, I'd have expected something better, but the engineering behind it is fabulous. You don't have any range anxiety from the EV perspective, because it does have a 2-litre petrol engine. The real trick with these is to use the petrol engine as little as possible. If you're going on a run of 100 miles, of hundreds of miles or whatever, then it's unavoidable. You're going to be using the engine. But there are ways, if you learn how to use the car, the regenerative braking, the charge mode, the save battery mode, and all this sort of clever stuff that's gone on it, you can actually be quite economical with it. But it is a great car. The thing is, if the battery degradation is typical from what Andy's experience is, then it puts a great big fat question mark over the viability of this, because if the battery is going to degrade very rapidly, then it suddenly makes it a very, very unattractive proposition, because for a lot of people that are going to be wanting this car, they are going to be wanting to use electric as much as they possibly can, for the simple reason that no, that's all gone to hell now, isn't it? For the simple reason that you've got the battery there to hopefully mean that you use petrol as little as possible. And if you haven't got the range on the battery because it's degrading so much, then it puts the whole viability of the proposition into question. I'm rather hoping that the problem that Andy's experienced is nothing more than, I say nothing more than something that Mitsubishi can fix using software, which is basically Andy's conclusion. And I've watched all of his videos and the entire saga that he's gone through, and I too am convinced that there is nothing wrong with the batteries in these cars. It's the software. The software is not optimized to the battery. It's not understanding the battery properly. It's reading it wrong, and it's saying it's degrading. If it's saying it's degrading, if the software believes that the battery state of health is considerably lower than it actually is, then it doesn't matter how good the battery is, the software is going to start activating the engine, because it thinks it hasn't got as much power as it actually has in there. So that's primarily the conclusion. I'm going to hopefully talk a little bit more about my experiences, but if you really want to understand what's going on, then check out Andy's channel, also Gary Reed's channel on his experiments with the PHEV. He lives in Canada, and he has, now incidentally, Gary, if you are watching this, there was a little challenge you put out, which is how far can you go on electric power with nothing switched on, no heating, no heated seats or anything like that, everything's switched off. What range can you get out of your battery? In my case, the temperature was 6 Celsius. Now, I know that is pathetic compared to what you've got to put up with. I think when you did your test, it was minus 38 Celsius, and I can't remember the range you got out of yours, but out of mine I got 22 miles. That's miles, by the way, not kilometres, and I should have worked out what the kilometres were from that anyway. I'm sure you can. So I did 22 kilometres, here we go, I've gone wrong now, 22 miles, and it was 6 Celsius here in the UK, yeah, that was okay, because one thing it did show me is that the claims that Mitsubishi say about the range are always more than you can get, but looking at a lot of other reviewers, 22 miles on a good new battery is pretty typical. So I was happy with that, as long as it doesn't degrade any further. And at the moment it's holding very steady at 95% state of health, but there's other stuff on here that will tell you what's going on. So anyway, that was a message to Gary, but a feedback to you, to Andy and to Gary. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing on the PHEV. I don't think I've actually mentioned that Andy's actually succeeded in getting Mitsubishi to give him a brand new battery, and he had that replaced only a few weeks ago, and he's still suffering some degradation. And this is why he's now concluded, or he's probably confirmed what he already believed, that the problem is software and not hardware. In other words, it's not duff batteries, it's the software not reading the battery properly and believing that the battery is degrading when it actually isn't. So he's still collating data, as with the others that are on the forum that he's got, and they're feeding back to Mitsubishi, and perhaps Mitsubishi will have some sort of software update to try and fix these problems. I don't know what software version his car has got. I don't know what software version my car has got, for example. It might be that, you know, some of these things have actually been sorted out and he's just got an older version of software. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't be doing that. It's as simple as that. From day one, when the car's first built, it shouldn't be doing that. So anyway, I'm not going to go any further now. I've banged on for almost a quarter of an hour. Good God, you must be bored to tears. Never mind. So thank you, Gary. Thank you, Andy. Good job, both. And hopefully we'll be watching some more vids from the both of you, and certainly watch Andy's progress with great interest as to how he gets on with Mitsubishi in sorting out the battery degradation issues. So with that, that's me signing off. Thank you very much. I'll try and do some electronic kits when I can. And until then, all the very best to everybody. Cheers for now.